Hello, everyone. Before we begin, just a small announcement that we have one Russian speaker among us, and the rest will be speaking either Turkish or English. So if you want to use your headsets, please do keep that in front of you. Thank you very much. All right, I believe we are all set. Thank you very much all for being here today. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for me. I get to be the speaker of an international assembly, and this moment is going to last for the next 90 minutes, so it's truly an honor for me to be chairing this important discussion, and I welcome you all once again to this insightful panel on the evolving landscape of diplomacy, particularly focusing on the indispensable role of parliaments and interparliamentary dialogue in promoting peace, stability, and democracy across the world. Now, certainly in the wake of wars, conflicts, climate crises, and with the dawn of the new millennium, the interconnected nature of local, regional, and global issues has become increasingly apparent. Traditional forms of diplomacy, while they're still vital, have shown their limitations in addressing the complex challenges of our times. It is in this context that parliamentary diplomacy has emerged as a complementary force, leveraging its inherent connection to the citizenry and the legitimacy that comes from being the people's voice. So I'm looking forward to a lively discussion with all of you, and I believe the discussion is not only going to help us highlight the achievements and potential of parliamentary diplomacy, but also inspire actionable insights and collaborative efforts towards a more peaceful and prosperous world. So once again, thank you all for being with us. I want to begin by introducing our panelists, and then I'll give you the floor. So first and foremost, we have, by the way, we are not sitting in order, so I do apologize if we have to go through people in a puzzle. First and foremost, let me welcome Tulia Aksen, President, Interparliamentary Union. Thank you very much. Asaf Hajiev, Secretary General, Parliamentary Assembly of the BSEC, PAPSEC. Rafat Chubarov, Chairman of the Mejlis of the Crimean Tatar People, Ukraine. Mimi Kodeli, former Minister of National Security, MP, Chair of the Parliamentary Foreign Affairs Commission, Albania. Ramil Hassan, Ambassador, former Secretary General of the OTS, MP, Azerbaijan. Ilhan Küçük, MEP, Renew Europe Group, Vice Chair of the European Union, Turkey Joint Parliamentary Committee, Bulgaria. Hauni Ovaska, MP, Chair of the Turkey-Finland Friendship Group of the Finnish Parliament. Hossein Zeybek, Member of Parliament, Greece. Ozgur Ferhat, Member of Parliament, Greece. Richard Czarnecki, MEP, European Conservatives and Reformists Group, Chair of the EP Turkey Friendship Group, Poland. Varol Ahmet, Member of Parliament, Romania. Adem Chigos, Member of Parliament, Co-Chair, Ukraine-Turkey Interparliamentary Friendship Group of the Ukrainian Parliament. Thanks all once again to this important discussion. President Aksen, I'd like to begin with you. Considering your leadership role in the Interparliamentary Union, how do you see interparliamentary dialogue shaping efforts towards peace building, especially in conflict-ridden areas such as Gaza, Ukraine, Yemen, Syria, for example? Can you share examples with us where the IPU's involvement has led to significant progress?
Thank you so much. I'm very honored to be part of this very important platform, but straight to the issue that you have raised. The IPU has a specific committee that deals with Middle East questions. So the conflict that happens in the entire Middle East region. So recently, the most recent one is the one that is happening in Gaza. And of course, at IPU, we are concerned not just about the increase of number of those who are affected, the casualties, people who have been injured, people who have died, children, women, and people who are not really actively in war, not combatants. But that committee, what it does is that it gives the IPU a platform to discuss issues that are dedicated just for the Middle East. Now, recently we had a meeting at the committee level, and I attended as president. We did it visually, and we are going to have the assembly end of this month, and we will be discussing peace and security. And so we are going to prioritize what is happening that side. I personally visited. Now, the issue of saying what is the role of IPU. At IPU, we actually put a lot of emphasis on dialogue. We would want to create platforms where people can meet and talk. And as I speak now, as president of the IPU, I was elected in October. I have visited the region already, and that gives me a chance when I will be talking to both sides, the Israeli side and the Palestinian side, at parliamentary level. I'll be talking about something that I have already witnessed, much as partially, but I've been there. So in a way, I am more advantaged in terms of information and the feelings of those people on the ground. So at IPU, we create a platform for dialogue for both sides. It's the only place where maybe it's different from other forums. Here you meet parliamentarians, you sit with them, talk to them, listen to their concerns, and then we see how we can actually convince both sides to put their differences on the table and be able to talk about the issues that affect them most. So we create dialogue, and we have a specific committee that deals with that.
And do you believe what you are doing, you have been successful in doing that when it comes to resolving conflicts across the world?
Well, I must say, in a way, yes, because like I said, we create a platform for them to talk. Because if you don't do that, then the world becomes more paralyzed, so to speak. Everybody has their own stand. And now it is at IPU where we call a spade a spade. If somebody is going wrong, we tell them they're wrong. If somebody is doing right, we tell them you're right. Much as we are not a court of justice, but we do tell each other what we are supposed to do. And as parliamentarians, we are the people who make our governments responsible. We oversee what governments do. And in most countries, we are also the ones who actually approve our governments to go to war. So I believe as parliamentarians, we have a great role to play in building peace, and not just peace, sustainable peace in the world.
Indeed, and I believe this is the message that we are trying to send out
Yes.
from this particular panel. Now, Mr. Hajiev, let me come to you. With your experience at the Parliamentary Assembly of the Black Sea Economic Cooperation, could you discuss the role of economic collaboration through parliamentary diplomacy in supporting sustainable stability and democracy in regions prone to conflicts, such as the Sahel?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I would like to express deep gratitude to Minister of Foreign Affairs of Turkey, particularly to the Minister Hakan Fidan, for excellent organization of this event, and also for invitation to be among of this important gathering. I present Black Sea region and would like to inform you how it's important Black Sea region today for the world policy. Black Sea region, it is bridge between Asia and Europe. At the same time, it's intersection of the world transportation roads like Silk Way from east to west and from Viking Way from north to south. At the same time, the region is very rich in energy resources, where gas and oil from Black Sea and Caspian Sea are delivered to the world market. But the main value of the region, it's not geographical position. It's not that the region is very rich in energy resources. The main value of the region, this is people who live here. It's the different nations with different traditions, different culture, and it's important, with different religions. And we have to oblige to bring into the region peace, security, and prosperity. And the main slogan of our organization, peace, reconciliation, and cooperation. But unfortunately, the region faced a lot of conflicts. For 13 countries in our assembly, there are 7 conflicts. Only one of them almost came to end. I mean, the war between Armenia and Azerbaijan around former Nagorno-Karabakh, now it is called Karabakh region of Azerbaijan. I will tell some interesting fact, you know. I was in Europe in some very respectable international organization. I don't want to tell the name. And I was asked from Secretary General, why you use force for innovation of your territorial integrity? It's not acceptable. But my answer was, excuse me, how did we lose this territory, Azerbaijan? Around the table, or it was some peace agreement to give territory to other country? No, but 30 years, Azerbaijan waited for this. But no any international organization took any decision about this. And so we must force to use power, our power, because the principle of territorial integrity and sovereignty of the country, it's main, I would say, most important principle of 20th and 21st century. And there is no chance to change or to correct this principle. Let's have a look what we have as a result of war. We have refugees. Yesterday, His Excellency, President of Turkey, Tayyip Recep Erdogan, underlined that only Turkey received 4 million refugees, only Turkey. Look, in the world, there is 110 million refugees. It means that in the world, among of 80 refugees, there is at least at least 1 refugee. If we'll come back to Black Sea region, among of 60 people here, at least 1 refugee. But in the example of Turkey, among of 20 people, there is 1 refugee. If you back to Azerbaijan, among of 10 people, there is refugee. Today, the damage to the world economy from the problem of refugees is estimated around $1 trillion. Can you imagine this amount? 1 trillion. And so the conflict, all conflicts should be solved, and the base of the solution should be territorial integrity and sovereignty of the countries, because we call all of you for that, and you know, but this is not problem of one country, it's not problem of one region, it's a problem of the world. And in this regard, I'd like to remind you some very famous words that it was said that the weak are united to be strong, but strong to be united, to be invictable. And so I call all of you to unite our efforts and to be invictable. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Question, please.
Yeah, I do actually. So many of you here are lawmakers, and certainly it's imperative for lawmakers to uphold international law. You mentioned Azerbaijan and Armenia and the Karabakh War that erupted in 2020. Now that Azerbaijan has liberated those lands, what role do you believe interparliamentary diplomacy has to play here when it comes to fostering peace between the two countries?
Yeah. You know, but all parliamentary assemblies, it's a unique place where a country can discuss tete-a-tete situation, and maybe it can help to change positions of the country, because my vision, without the discussion, right, without discussion tete-a-tete, it's difficult to solve any problem. And so parliamentary assembly is a good opportunity for MP from different countries, because at last parliament will take final decision. And so it's very important in the Parliamentary Assembly to discuss this issue. Unfortunately, in PAPSEC, in our assembly, we have some non-writing law that it is not allowed to discuss conflict and take decisions. But in any our meeting, we have battle between countries, between Russia, Ukraine, between Azerbaijan, Armenia, between Georgia, Russia, and so on. But it is, in a way, some good opportunity to discuss, to understand each other, and I'm sure that it will help for finding solution.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hajiev, for sharing your fascinating insights about this topic. Now, Mr. Chubarov, let me come to you. Now, given your significant role in representing the Crimean Tatar people, how can parliaments ensure the promotion of fair, free, and secure elections, particularly in contexts where the rights of minority groups are at risk?
Birinciden Kırım Tatar Milli Meclis heyetini davet ettiğiniz için Türkiye Dışişleri Bakanlığı'na
Thank you very much
teşekkürler bildirmek istiyorum.
to the Foreign Minister of
Kırım
Turkey
hakkında
for the invitation.
hepimizin haberiniz var ki
As you
Kırım
know,
10 sene devamında
Crimea
Rusya tarafından işgal edilmiş.
was annexed by Russia
Şimdi
about
parlamenterlerin
10 years
rolü ne kadar
ago.
önemli olduğunu
And the
hepimiz
role
çok
of the
yaxşı biliyoruz. Burada
parliament is quite known.
fikirler olmayışı gerek.
I am sure that we
Dürüst ve açıkça söylemeye
come to an
istersek,
agreement about
bu
this because
fikrini biraz devam
honestly
etmeye gerek.
we need
Demokratik
to
ülkelerde
be sustainable. In
parlamenter
democratic countries,
gerçekten de seçileler.
parliaments are elected.
Seçimden geçiliyor.
Members of the parliaments are elected.
Otoriter
But in
rejimlerde
authoritarian regimes,
parlamenterleri
members
diktatör
of the
tarafından
parliament
gösterilir ve
are
Allah kendi
appointed by
vazifelerini devam ederler.
dictators and
Ve
they
şimdi burada
pursue
bir
what they do.
sual var.
So, but
Demokratik
here is the
şekilde
question.
seçim edilen parlamenterler
In
ve
democratic
otoriter
countries,
rejim ya da junta tarafından gösterilen
the members of the
parlamenterler arasında
parliament,
diyalog olabilir mi?
can there be a dialogue between these two?
Şimdi
I mean, the
burada
members of the
bunu
parliament from
söylemeye gerek
a
var.
democratic country and
Sen
members of the
evine
parliament from an authoritarian
Gelen
country.
haydutlar
I mean,
diyalog için gelmemişler.
the enemies who invade your
evine gelen
home
haydutlar
are not there
seni
for a
öldürmeye
dialogue.
duvarlarını,
They are
evlerini
there to
hepsini
kill
yıkmaya
you. They are
gelmişler.
there to destroy your
Ve tüm evin burada
home.
bu forumda
So, in this
Sergey Lavrov
platform, Sergey
o kadar
Lavrov
fazla, uydurup
made
konuşsa,
made up
Şimdi biz-
remarks.
ben Kırım Tatar Milli Meclis Reisi olarak
I am the
bunu
chairman
açıktan
of
söylemeyi
the
istiyorum.
Parliament of
Bizler
Crimean
Ukrayna'da
Tatar
yaşıyoruz.
people.
Ukrayna
We
demokratik
live
bir
in
ülke.
Ukraine. Ukraine is
Ukrayna
a democratic
parlamentosu
country
nasıl seçimlerden
and the Ukrainian
geçtiğini hepiniz
parliament
biliyorsunuz.
is elected.
Ve bu sebepten bizler şimdi
So,
bu savaşın içinde olduğumuz
Now,
sebepten ve
since we
hem
are
ülkemizin
dealing with the war,
üstünde büyük bir risko
we have
ve
a huge
Kırım
risk
Tatar
that
halkımızın
faces us.
durumu
I mean
o
the
kadar böyle bir
Crimean
katastrof
Tatar
şeklinde olduğu
people,
sebebinden
which is
biraz
catastrophic
açık konuşmaya
for us.
istiyoruz.
So I would like to
Ukrayna'da
be
şimdi 10 sene Ukrayna'ya karşı savaş
honest
gidiyor.
about it.
Şimdi
It has been 10 years since the declaration of war. And now there will be elections, new elections.
Seçimleri geçirmeye olmayacağız.
But
Çünkü savaş zamanı seçimler olmaz.
during a war, you cannot
Tatar
hold
Milli
elections.
Meclisi
And the
2013
parliament of
senede
the Crimean
seçim
Tatar
edildi. 5
people
senelik dönüm.
are
Yani
elected
seçimler
for
oluşu gerek.
a term of 5
Toprağımız,
years.
işgal edilmiş ve orada da seçimler
And
olmaz. O sebepten
There is no way to hold
parlamentolar
elections
çalışması
as
için
the war
gerçekten de
is
Sayın
ongoing. So
Asaf
in
Bey
order
söyledi
for a
ki,
parliament to
bu dünyada
function,
hem önemli prensip
as Asaf
toprak
said,
bütünlüğü.
you need to attach importance to territorial integrity. And no parliament can come to an agreement when they disregard
Toprak bütünlüğü ve
territorial
Rusya
integrity,
işgal edilen topraklardan kendi
especially
askerlerini
considering
geri
the
alması.
invasion of Russia.
Ve bu mesele bizim
And
için bundan
this issue
önemli bizim için hiçbir mesele yok.
Is
Diğer
most
konuları
important
sayın
of all for us.
Moderatörümüz biz de konuşabiliriz.
Maybe we
Ama
can
orada
discuss
savaş
other
toplamayın.
topics.
Kırım
But
Rusya işgalcilerinden
since the
azat
war is
edilmeyecek.
ongoing,
Diğer konular bizim için o kadar önemli
other
değil.
matters
Ama
do
elbette
not
bizler her bir şeylere
mean so much
hazırlanıyoruz.
to us. Of course, we are
Sonuna
prepared
geliyorum.
for all. I will
Kırım'ın azat edilmesi
conclude
için
my remarks.
Ukrayna parlamento
In order
gerekli
to
kanunları kabul ediyor.
remove the annexation, Ukrainian parliament
2019
is ready
senesi
to
Ukrayna
compromise.
parlamentosu
And
Kırım
Ukrainian parliament
Milli Meclisi'ni Kırım Tatar Tamırlı halkını prezentasyon, temsil eden organ olarak tanıdı.
represents the
2021
parliament of
senesi
Ukrainian Tatar
Ukrayna'da
people.
Ukrayna kökenli halklar ya da Tamırlı halklar kanun kabul edildi. Ve
And
diğer
our rights
Kırım
have been
Yarımadası'nda azat edildikten
introduced
sonra
into law,
hayatı devam etmek için gerekli kanunlar kabul edildi ve onların
and other
içinde
laws have been
Kırım
introduced
Tatar,
as well for
dilini saklaması,
the
orada
Ukrainian Tatar
tarihimizi
people to enjoy their
doğrulması ve
freedoms,
gerçekten
and
her
to
tarafa
also
bildirilmesi
revive
ve diğer
our
gerekli
history.
kararlar Ukrayna parlamentosu
It
ve Ukrayna
has
hükümet
been
tarafından
adopted
kabul edildi.
by
Ama
the
şöyle
Ukrainian
bir
parliament
nokta
and the
söyleyeceğim.
Ukrainian government.
Bizim için şimdi
As
en
I
önemlisi
said, most
Rusya'nın
important thing for
askerlerinin,
us is the withdrawal of the Russian troops from the Ukrainian territories. That is what matters to us the most. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman Chubarov. I want to add one question here. Just want to make sure that I get this right. So what you are saying is that as long as there is an invasion, as long as Russia is invading Ukrainian territory, you don't see any possible role that your parliament can play in fostering peace. Is that correct?
On sene evvelsi yanlışmasam 1. Mart'taydı.
10 years
2004
ago,
sene, Rusya parlamentosu
the Russian parliament,
hepsi tek bir milletvekili karşı çıktı.
it was
Hepsi
only one member of the
Rusya,
parliament who rejected it, but the rest of them
ordusu Ukrayna
Approved
devletinin
the Russian
sınırlarını bozup
troops
Ukrayna toprağına girmesine
invading
karar aldı.
the Ukrainian
Dediğim
territories.
savaş düğmeni her bir Rus parlamentoru
So
bastı.
each member of
Savaş
the
düğmeni.
parliament
O
in
sebepten bunu
Russia
söylemeyi istiyorum ki savaş ve
approved this
barış,
decision to
barış
send
tikleyen
Russian
ve
troops to Ukraine.
barışı isteyen ve
So
buna çalışan
any parliament or any member of the
tek
parliament
demokrasi,
who
Türkiye
is
gibi
willing to
demokrasi ülkelerde
negotiate
seçim
for
ettiler.
peace
Rusya
wouldn't
gibi
approve
otoriter rejimlerde
doing so.
savaşı
But in an
isteyen,
authoritarian
tek
country like
savaşı-
Russia,
savaşa yol açan parlamenterler araya
members
gelir.
of
Bunu
the
söyleyeyim
parliament
size.
are there who are pro-war.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chabarov, for sharing your insights into this topic. Now, moving forward, let me go to Ms. Mimi Kotheli. Now, Ms. Kotheli, from your extensive experience in national security and foreign affairs, how do you think parliamentary diplomacy contribute to the global fight against climate change, which is certainly a big issue that humanity is facing right now? It is real and it is impacting us in more dangerous ways than ever before. So how do you think it can promote international cooperation and adherence to the Paris Agreement?
Thank you, dear Jafar, dear colleagues. It's a honor and pleasure to be here today. Well, I will begin by saying that the most famous Albanian woman, Mother Teresa, used to say, maybe we can't do big things, but you can do small things with big love. So, looking at how many influential and decision-making people we are here and in the forum, of course, I impose the question, could it be possible to do not small things, but big things with big love? Oh yes, we can. So we need to have a common sense of our common future, which we are losing it. And by saying that, I think that Albania is doing its best. We are not inspired by the history, we're just inspired by the future. History, we can learn from history, but not use it as a rhetoric. So, in our foreign policy, we think that to have a win-win situation, parliamentary diplomacy, it's absolutely needed, a part of the government diplomacy, the leaders' diplomacy, as well as women being part. And it's a pity that we are just two of us in this round table. Of course, I'm proud of, I've been lucky to have a good political career, because I'm the first woman in carrying, used to the position of Minister of Defense of my country, a NATO country. But a part of that, and a part of being for many years in politics and having more than 14 elections in my life, which somebody knows what I mean, and having 60 years of life, I just understood one thing, which is not, you look in the mirror and you see yourself as the center of the world, but not because you're Albanian, you are Brazilian, you are Armenian, you are whatever, Turk, British, whatever, you are blonde hair or dark hair, but just because you are a human being. And you are in the center of the world just because you are a human being, loved by God, by just one God. So I think that nothing is impossible with just people which are incapable. If there are conflicts, wars, crashes, atrocities, it happens just because there's no excuse, just because we are incapable of sitting, talking to each other. So we failed in diplomacy, as we failed in economic relations, as we failed in everything, and we are just pointing out the finger to who is in front of us, who is neighbor to us, who is different from us in religion, in color, in sex, in whatever position, coming from a small country, coming from a big country. It's all relative. So I think that I will stop by saying that if we need a real peace, this is not an utopia at all. We Albanians are really trying hard. We have been lucky us to be for 2 years sitting in the Security Council table and having a role, for God's sake, even being such a small country. So I think that we're doing so because we just believe in principles, and we do have faith. So if we make it to be stable, not just for us, but for the region, and maybe for the whole world. I'm not just exaggerating. It's not my fantasy. I lived enough in my life not to have more fantasy that I would like to. But let's give peace a chance before it's too late. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Fascinating insights. Let me ask you, why do you think the world has been so unsuccessful in fostering peace? What is the core reason behind it, in your view?
Well, it looks like everyone in this world is from the right part of the history, or from the right side of history. If you look at my country's history, we are quite a very ancient nation, speaking a unique, very old language. In the history, we learned how to survive. We were cut in pieces. We are the only country in Europe bordered just by Albanians. We are bordered by Albanians in Montenegro. We are bordered by Albanians because of Kosovo. We are bordered by Albanians in North Macedonia, and we are bordered by Albanians in the north of Greece. So we were just cut it. Leave it there. Who are they? They are an expression. They are not even a nation, we were told centuries ago. And I born up and grew up in the toughest dictatorship that we, in the perception of, you know, of the previous century, you know, people were having. Tough communist regime, okay? But I have learned, even during that regime, there was always a light, a green light at the end of our tunnels. And I will say this, I will tell this exactly the same to my Tatar friend. You know, Tartars in the history are like big soldiers. We in the history used to be big soldiers. But we have a proverb. You can be as brave as you can, but a brave man with good friends. We are exactly under the same roof. If we're not going to solve issues, problems, wars, whatever, disasters together, and we're not having lessons, for God's sake. We had this COVID. We were being exactly the same under the same roof, and we didn't learn the lessons. Still, we are, you know, talking about fly kites, talking about wars, and you know, and other issues which I don't like to mention, because I deal with security and defense issues, not only foreign policy issues, every day. So, parliamentarians, big issue. Big issue. I have been in government as I have been in parliament, as I have been in opposition because of my many years in politics. We need more and more to have a role, because we're going to people, we're talking to people, we're voted by people, not talking nationalist rhetoric to them, talking real to them. Their future is common. Our future is common. And even I'm considered, I don't know if I am, but I'm most probably considered, at least in my place, a very tough woman. I'm telling you a small secret. I see the future of the world with the eyes of a mother and with the eyes of a grandmother, which I am, for God's sake. It's far much stronger than seeing the future with the eyes of a parliamentarian, because it's life. So let's think about that. Stop and think. Then run, of course. Oof, many things. But if you talk to people, if you talk to your colleagues, to your parliamentarians, it looks like we think exactly the same. And then when we are, you know, in different places with different roles, we speak different. No, we are exactly the same. So I'm stopping here because most probably I spoke too much, but I hope my message, my real message, and I'm not afraid to say it really, because I have no time, you know, no time to be hypocrite, or I'm done with my career, in the sense that I have reached a lot of things which at the beginning I even never thought to do so, just by saying let's be united, talk to each other, explain the reasons why we are acting differently, even by coming from a totally different environment. Myself, I'm coming from a different environment. I'm the product of two parents with atheist but totally different religion background, and here I am. I grew up, I hope, as an open-minded person, and I will go on by doing so, even somebody will not agree with me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate your sharing the insights with us. And I just want to pick up on one thing and put that to Mr. Ramil Hassan here. Now, Ms. Kodeli mentioned that when parliamentarians, when they sit together, they do tend to agree with each other. But the moment they are in a different setting, the agreement is gone. So what I understood from your speech, Ms. Kodeli, is that there is consensus when parliamentarians are sitting together, but the moment they are in a different setting, there is a lack of commitment to carry forward the agreements made in those meetings. Do you think that is the case with interparliamentary diplomacy these days?
Thank you so much. So first of all, I'd like to share with you that, of course, I am believe is a parliamentary diplomacy plays a significant role for global security, global mutual understanding, and mutual responsible process, which the parliamentarians plays in the important role. That's why I prepared some of my remarks. I'd like to share with you. There's following that, of course, if you have any question, once again, we would like to discussing about it. With your permission, I'd like to first one also, as the outset, as a member of parliament and the former Secretary General of Organization of Turkic States and member of parliament Azerbaijan, I'd like to also express the profound gratitude to the chair and of course organizers for the invitation to this round table of our topics. So I'd like note that parliamentary diplomacy has an increasing role in the world as a favorable mechanism for promoting dialogue, the mutual understanding, confidence building measures, and the peace and assist the peace building efforts. The role of the parliament in the 21st century world is becoming more and more distinct. Taking into consideration that parliamentary diplomacy is conducted by elected officials rather than by professional diplomats, it is an important tool and a platform for discussion of all kinds of issues regarding various spheres, as promoting peace, sustainable stability, entrenched democracy, holding fair, free, and secure elections, gender equality, combating climate change. In this regard, the parliamentary diplomacy is considered as complementing the traditional diplomacy, contributing to promotion of political dialogue and exchange of views at various levels. The role played of parliamentarians in Azerbaijan and the region, of course, utmost important. At the same time, the role played by the persons directly elected by the people, that is, parliamentarians is once again coming to the fore in the process of the dialogue, cooperation, and mutual understanding, the process such as ongoing conflicts, frozen conflicts, and at the same time conflicts that have already ended, and the example of Azerbaijan and Armenia, by the way. The conflict has ended, but the peace treaty has not yet been signed. So parliamentarians are as peoples who are the most important part of the public diplomacy. In the process, the decision made by MPs, the many dialogue meetings they hold, and the steps they take, they play the particularly important role in bringing relations closer together and solving crises. In this direction, the joint activity of parliamentarians united the international organizations and using these organizations as a common platform will play an important role in solving problems and bringing peace and harmony to the world. Closing cooperation with other parliaments and the leading international organization is a significant basis for strengthening peace, security, and democracy in the region. Our parliament organizes its international collaboration through and a multifaceted approach and explores possibilities to engage with and collaboratively work with the prominent organizations in a constructive manner. Thus, the Azerbaijan parliament backs the improvement of operational cohesion and efficiencies in both regional and global parliamentary collaboration. I'd like to state that Azerbaijan is open to such initiatives. Role of parliaments and the cooperation among our parliaments is of great importance in terms of achieving our foreign policy goals, peace, and development. The main means of this cooperation is parliamentary diplomacy. It's my thoughts, my feeling about it.
Thank you very much. I just want to ask you one thing that I asked Mr. Pajiev as well. You mentioned the war between Azerbaijan and Armenia, and you also said that while the war has ended, a peace treaty has not been signed. Again, I ask you the same question. What role do you think interparliamentary diplomacy has to play here?
Of course, I am wholeheartedly agrees these topics that parliamentary diplomacy played great role and can play great role about for negotiations for the peacekeeping with the process. And that's why, for example, for instance, Interparliament Union and another, the parliamentary platform can play a significant role for dialogue between member of parliaments, for instance, Armenia and Azerbaijan.
Is there willingness from the Azerbaijani parliamentarian side to engage in such a dialogue?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Mr. Ramil Hassan, for sharing your insights. Now, moving forward, let me come to Mr. İlhan Küçük. Now, Mr. Küçük, in your role bridging European and Turkish legislative efforts, how do you think interparliamentary dialogue be leveraged to ensure more inclusive representations when it comes to dealing with issues?
Well, thank you, Jafar, and also for framing in a very correct way what is the role of the parliament, because as we are speaking about the role of the parliaments in general, we have to make the distinction that we have a different role within different parliaments, because European Parliament is not a traditional national parliament. We have parliamentary assemblies, we have the national parliaments in their full capacities of being legislatures, and at the same time we have the European Parliament, which is, I dare to say, more involved in the issues of public diplomacy. Having said that, I can give you many good examples where the European Parliament played a role in a facilitating process. And of course, countries are different. Some of them are members of the European Union, others are aiming to become members of the European Union. And the rest of the countries are just in a neighborly relationship, or they are interested in engaging with the European Parliament. But in the case of North Macedonia, I think European Parliament played a crucial role. We share our best practices, how we see the working methods inside the European Parliament, in order to help the both sides, in this case the government and opposition parties, to come together and to make sure that they understand democratic rules and procedures as we do in the European Parliament, but without insisting on our democratic standards. And that I think was a huge achievement called by many of our colleagues and friends, a successful attempt of Jean Monnet dialogue, where we are facilitating, we are talking to people, and I think this is the main asset of the parliamentarians. Compared to ministers and to officials, we can have a friendly environment where we talk to each other. And this can give a significant democratic input to the process of democratization in different countries. In the process of building state institutions and keeping the high democratic and rules-based standards. I dare to say that European Parliament plays a significant role in many areas, in many places in the world. And I want to mention also our role in Ukraine, where we've been trying to facilitate the process and to actually convey our message to our Ukrainian friends that they belong to the European soil. And we are not going to question their ethnicity, their integrity, and their will and spirit to survive in this war with Russia. So, having said that, we as European Parliament are positioning ourselves in a way, in a place which is called public diplomacy, with all possible instruments within. I do believe that one of the most successful foreign affairs tools is still diplomacy. Of course, as a world, we can blame each other. We failed in many areas. That's also a truth. But in the same time, parliamentarians can play a preventive role in those difficult issues and problems without being so visible. And that's the beauty of parliamentarians. They can take more risk, they can be more flexible, and they can be an asset to the political toolbox of the foreign affairs.
Thank you very much. Now, one thing that I have established in my brain listening to the speakers that we have so far listened to is the fact that all of you agree that parliamentarians have a significant role to play. All of you agree that the role of the parliament is imperative when it comes to ensuring democracy, rule of law, and effective foreign policy. But I do wonder whether or not you believe the European Parliament is able to act in a way where significant, tangible outcomes can be seen.
We did it, and we are not separate entity compared to other European entities. So this can happen only if we unite forces. So that's why for such a long time I've been advocating for European Union speaking one voice. The voice of the European Commission, the voice of the European Parliament, the voice of the European Council. And let me be a bit of critical to our recent activities. I dare to say that this European Union and the institutions of the Union were created for 20th century, when the global challenges, revivals were at different level. We had a different understanding on many global solutions. Now we dare to say that the local issues are global issues, and we have to act collectively and to have the same collective response to those issues. So the European Union can be only successful if we strengthen our efforts at the Council, Commission, and Parliament level. That will certainly give the European Union the voice of strength, and we can play our political and moral obligation if we achieve that.
Are you indicating that so far it has been unsuccessful in doing that?
I would say we were partly successful, but what we had as a democratic exercise a couple of years ago, called Conference of Future of Europe, demonstrated the clear will of the European citizens to go to that direction. Whether the politicians are going to follow, that's a different talk, and obviously we're going to see bigger debate about it just in a couple of months.
Mr. Kuchuk, thank you very much. Now, Mr. Richard Czarnecki, let me come to you. You are someone who has been deeply involved in European Parliament's external relations. So based on that, how do you think parliamentary diplomacy can be optimized to support rule of law and democracy in countries where these two elements are under threat?
Aksamlar, good afternoon. Thank you, Chair. Firstly, I would like to say that it's my great privilege and great honor to be here. It's a very good opportunity to meet with our esteemed and very influential colleagues. Very good question, but before my few words about parliamentary diplomacy, one remark to my friend Ambassador Asaf Hajiev. I extremely understand Turkey and words of President Erdogan about 4 million of refugees, because my country, Poland, had more than 2.5 million of refugees from Ukraine, almost 3 million, and absolutely very well understand attitude of Turkey government and the situation. And one remark, and maybe answer for your question of Chair, to my colleague from the European Parliament, Ilhan Kyuçuk. The problem of European Union is that sometimes European Commission and European Parliament and European Council has different point of view. For example, very good example, I think. 9 years ago, after murder of Boris Nemtsov, former Deputy Prime Minister of Russia, leader of the opposition, European Parliament has frozen our relations with Duma, with the both chambers of Russian Parliament, but at the same time, European Commission still continue relations. After a few years, few months before the aggression of Russia against Ukraine, Mr. Borrell the Vice President of the European Commission, which is responsible for foreign affairs, visited Moscow. It's a good example of two different ways, and the big paradox, because normally the parliamentarians try find the bridges between parliaments and executive, the government, rather no. This situation is a good example that sometimes is a different situation. Two questions about parliamentary diplomacy. When and where? When we need the parliamentary diplomacy, if official diplomacy, national or international, United Nations, European Union, African Union, doesn't work or work not so effectively. Where now I think we can, about especially few regions like Palestine, not only Gaza Strip but Palestine, Sahel region, Yemen, and last but not least, obviously, Ukraine and war in Eastern Europe. I think that especially the areas of parliamentary diplomacy now is promoting democratic principles and the rule of law, obviously, but also discuss the importance of fair, free and secure election. I was observer of the election in 5 continents, more than 30 countries on behalf of the European Parliament, and I know it's the extremely important role of our House, of the European Parliament. And final remark that I think after the election, the European Parliament on June, I think the new European Parliament, new term, will be more open for better understanding of really different situation in some regions, because I can say very strongly that we in the European Union cannot be the teachers or judges or prosecutors for another continents. We should be the partners. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very well said. Mr. Czarnecki, let me add one question which is related to your final remarks. You hope that the new term of the Parliament is going to be more prosperous, but can you share some tips for the parliamentarians? How do they do that?
Well, we have election after a few months. It will be different parliament than now. For example, I'm sure that more skeptical to migration, more skeptical to Green Deal and other climate ideology. But I think we can create the good bridges. I think a new parliament can be more pragmatic in some foreign affairs issues.
Thank you very much, Mr. Czarnecki, for sharing your insights. Now, as per the order that I have here with me, let me go to Jauni Ovaska. Jauni, thank you very much once again. Now, with your experience in fostering Finnish-Turkish parliamentary relations, what strategies do you recommend for making interparliamentary dialogue more inclusive, ensuring it reflects a broader spectrum of voices?
Thank you. It's great to be here, actually. Finland and Turkey friendship is celebrating 100 years this year, so it's good to be here. But I see the role of the parliamentarians and interparliamentarian connections more and more important. There should be more networking inside the parliament and between the parliaments, because nowadays we have seen how effective or how effective not is UN or other organizations. And this geopolitical situation has shown us like Mr. Kaudelli says that we need parliamentarians because we have a similar thinking. We know, and we are patient. We know how much we can drink coffee or tea and just sit down and discuss and debate. And that's one point, because we have same kind of background. We go different elections. We know what the voters want. Sometimes we don't, and then we lose the elections. But if we do, so we know the people's different parliaments, and then it's easier to go and talk with different parliamentarians. And for example, here in Turkey, we can talk about economy, we can talk about geopolitical issues, and then we can share our ideas, and then we share our knowledge. Especially for me, coming from the northern part of Europe, from the Nordic countries, discussion and debate, it's totally different here than we do in the Nordics or in the European Parliament. We already saw how is the debate inside the European Parliament after June, maybe. So being here in Turkey, and this Turkey is totally different than Finland. This is a big country and a leading country in this area, I must say. So it's good to be here, the voices of Africa, Middle East, because the voices in the northern part of Finland, in Europe, it's totally different. But we are all the politicians, so it's so easy. Let's take a coffee and let's talk what's the problem and how to solve this problem. And I think we can have like a more active role, because when we are having a discussion, or even if there is a big conflict or crisis, and we are working for peace mediation, for example, so we can have active role of implementation if there is new laws or reforms. And somehow I see as a parliamentarian that our role as guardians of peace, so because we are talking about democratic values, democracy, rule of law, so that's why it's very important to have interparliamentary connections.
Just very quickly, you mentioned your role and role of lawmakers is to be the guardian of peace. To what extent do you think parliamentarians, especially within Europe, have upheld this very principle? Upheld, rather.
Sorry, what do you mean?
Do you think they're acting as guardians of peace from the continent that you come from, the parliamentarians over there?
Well, I see that we need to do more, and because there is different levels, because there is a ministerial levels, there are parliamentarian level, and that's the problem, I think, because our role as active players on that field, as a parliamentarian, I think we should be used more and sent to solve problems, and I think. Like it's said here that we have more freedom to act, and that's that kind of rules, and perhaps we should have also some, like I said, some kind of networks inside parliaments, and we have to train parliamentarians and training and education to work with these kind of issues, and then it can be more active, and we can have an more active role.
Thank you very much, Ioannis, for your insights. Now, we have two Greek member of parliaments here, so I'll ask the same question to both of you, Hüseyin Zeybek and Ozgur Ferhat. So, as members of the Greek parliament, how can interparliamentary initiatives between Greece and its neighbors serve as a model for enhancing regional peace and cooperation, particularly in addressing shared challenges such as migration and economic instability? So, Mr. Zeybek, you go first, please. Thank you.
Çok teşekkürler. İlk önce bize ev sahipliği yapan Türkiye Cumhuriyeti'ne, Dışişleri Bakanlığı'na teşekkür etmek istiyorum. Tabii ki
First of all, I would like to thank the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Turkey. It is a great honor for me to join such a distinguished group of participants because I am less experienced in these kinds of subjects. Of course, interparliamentary
çok önemli
contact
kavramlar.
and democracy are
Hangi demokrasiden
key
bahsediyoruz?
issues, but what kind of
Çünkü
democracy are we talking
herkes
about?
demokrasiyi farklı
Because
algılıyor, güçlü
democracy
olanlar
is
demokrasi kurallarına
interpreted in a
koyuyor,
different way by everyone.
kendisini haklı
Sometimes
gören,
might
bunu da
he wants
Türkiye'de diğerlerine
impose
ezerek
their
gösteriyor.
power over others.
Tabii ki Yunanistan'da parlamentonun gücünü
But
gördük.
in Greece, we know the role of the parliament, and
Biz,
it is
ben
proven.
Sırza milletvekiliydim.
I
Tsipras
was a
hükümetinde,
member of the
çok büyük bir
parliament
sorunu
under Tsipras,
çözdük.
and
Kuzey
we
Makedonya
solved
sorununu.
a great problem
Bu
which
karşılıklı anlaşmayla
concerns
iki
the
tarafın da
Northern Macedonia.
ortak paydada
Based
buluşarak,
on
çünkü,
mutual
yalnız siz haklı
consent and
olamazsınız. Sorun
agreement,
olduğunda
we found a
her iki tarafın
solution
da
because
sorunu vardır.
when there is a
tarafta
problem,
geri
both
adım atması
sides
lazım.
need to make
Bu şekilde
compromise,
oldu. Tabii ki,
and that is what happened.
önemli bir sorun çözülmüş oldu.
When we solved
Fakat
a major
iki
problem,
lider de seçim kaybetti.
but both leaders
Ee,
lost the
Yunanistan'da
elections
büyük
as a
yürüyüşler
result.
yapıldı.
And there
Kilise tarafından,
were lots of
aşırı
protests in
sağ
Greece
tarafından.
by the church,
Sonuçta,
by the far right
bu büyük sorunu çözen
people,
siyasetçiler
and the politician who
hemen hemen siyasi alandan çözüldü.
brought an end to this problem
Bunu yapmak
lost the
önemli.
elections.
Zayev'te,
But it
Sayın
was
Zayev'te, Sayın
important
Tsipras'ta
Zaev
bu
and Tsipras lost the elections as a result. So sometimes
dediğim gibi,
there is no price for peace,
demokrasiye gelince
but
şartlar
because
değişiyor.
when it comes to
Günümüzde,
democracy, things might change. In
uluslararası,
today's world,
Birleşmiş Devletler gibi kurumların daha aktif
international
rol alması
organizations
lazım.
such
Orada,
as United
görüyoruz
Nations
ki,
need to play
güçlü
a more
ülkeler
active role,
kendi
but
lehine kararlar
we see
çıkartıyorlar.
that those countries
Bir
with
Ukrayna
power
savaşı,
make
bir
decisions
Filistin katliamı,
that favor them. We see this in Gaza and in Palestine.
soykırım söz konusu ve
We see a genocide being unfolded in front of our eyes, and
yaptırım bile yapamıyor İsrail'e
no
karşı.
other country can impose sanctions on Israel, which is concerning.
Her şeyden rağmen
But
diyalogtan yana olmak lazım.
despite all of it, we need to
Dünya
be
hepimizin
on the
vatanı.
side of
Biliyorsunuz,
dialogue because
iklim
we
koşulları var,
share
değişikliği var.
a common
Bunun
planet
hepimiz
and
çekiyoruz.
there is climate change which
Ortak paydalardan
affects
buluşmak lazım.
us all and we need to find a common ground.
Samimi olmak
But
lazım.
first of all, we need to be
Burada
sincere. We need
tabii
to
ki bütün ülke
be
liderleri,
sincere when it comes to our relations.
milletvekillerinin de
And
görevleri
the
var.
leaders and parliamentarians have a role to play in this
Yarın
regard.
düşünmemiz lazım.
We need to think
Yani
about the future.
Her tarafta kan var, her
We see
tarafta
bloodshed everywhere.
savaş var.
We see conflicts everywhere from Asia to Africa to
Orta Doğu'da
Central Europe and in the Middle East.
de var.
And
Bunlar bu
there are
savaştan
reasons
kazananlar da var.
behind it. There are
Ama
people
bunlar
who make
tabii ki barış
profits
kazanılıyor.
out of these wars, and but
İnsanların
no peace
onuru
can be
olan
established.
barışın yalnız
So we
tekrar
need to
entegre
be on the
edilmesini
side
istiyoruz. Tabii
of
ki,
peace,
buna bizim gücümüz yetmiyor.
and sometimes
Dünyanın
we
her
do not
yerinde
have the power
yürüyüşler
to
yapılmakta,
impose
insanlar
that.
kaykırmakta,
People
fakat,
protest all over the
bunlar
world.
göz önüne
They make
alınmakta.
themselves hurt,
Peki,
but
yine de
they are
demokrasi diyoruz.
mostly disregarded.
Demokrasiyi işletmek
We talk
lazım.
about democracy, but we need to make sure that democracy is
İlişkiler,
functional.
kendi çıkar ilişkileri dışında
And in
daha
addition
verimli
to the
olması
national
lazım.
interest,
Ancak
we need to make
samimi
sure that
olursak,
global interests
gücümüzü
are also
savaşın
taken
lehine
into
değil,
consideration.
barışın lehine,
We
insanların
need to
refahı,
use our power
refahına
in
çevirmesi.
favor of
Çünkü,
peace, not war. And we need to turn this into the welfare of the peoples
çok
of the
sevdiğim bir
world.
diplomat çok güzel bir söz dedi.
A
söyledi.
diplomat
İşte
whom
dedim ki,
I like very much said
nasıl olur yani
something
diplomasi
very good today.
barışla nasıl bağdaşır?
I asked the correlation between peace and diplomacy. Without diplomacy, there is no peace, he said. And this is
Keşke
very important.
diplomasi savaşları
I
engellese,
wish diplomacy
hakkı,
could
hukuku,
have
kanun
prevented conflicts and bloodshed, because people who have no power are the victims and the survivors of these conflicts, especially women and children. So we need to use our power not to destroy other people or countries, but we need to build on our power for the future. But we are minorities in terms of perspective, and we see that the far right is rising in Europe, and Europe cannot find a common policy on migration, for instance, and there are countries which tend to make decisions
sorunları başka.
And
Çiftçiler ayakta
the challenges
beklediği
facing
noktada bir sorun
small
yok.
countries are
Bu paylaşım
different,
dünyada
but
kar her şeyin üzerine geçmekte.
global peace
İnsan
needs
hayatının
to be the
önemi
number
geçmekte.
one priority. But sometimes the
Kötümser bir insan değilim
profits
ama,
or
yaşanan tabloda
other considerations
pek de,
might
güzel
be
bir tablo
more
göremiyorum.
important to some other people. I'm not pessimistic, but
Fascinating
I don't
science,
see
Mr.
a positive
Thank you very
outcome.
much, Mr. Farrell. You have the floor now. Thank you.
Öncelikle Sayın Cafer Aslan size
First of
sunucumuz ve bu
Cafer
barış,
Aslan,
demokrasi, diplomasi ve
thank
kalkınma,
you
adlı
for chairing this
toplantımızda başkanlık
session
ettiğiniz için
on
teşekkür
the
ediyorum.
Parliament's role in
Tüm
promoting peace and
katılımcılarımızı
development,
dikkatle dinledim
and I have
ve
paid close attention
konuşmacılarımızı
to
dikkatle
what
dinledim.
has been said thus
Önceden
far,
hazırladığım bir konuşmayı şu anda değiştirmek
I
zorunda kaldım
had
çünkü çok
a
yeni şeylerle
speech
karşı karşıya kaldık.
but I had to
Artık
revise my
parlamento
speech
üyelerinin,
because
meclis
I
üyelerinin,
heard
milletvekillerinin
so many
ne tür
different
aktivitelerden,
perspectives,
ne
and
tür,
now I
aktivitelerde
can tell
bulunması
what
gerektiğini,
kind of
ne
role
tür inisiyatifler alınması
parliamentarians
gerektiğini
can play,
değişik bir açıdan görebildik.
and
Ben,
we have
Yunanistan
heard
Meclisi
about
üyesi olarak,
different perspectives, and
burada,
as a member
buradan
of the Greek
çıktığımda
Parliament,
ülkeme
when I
çok daha
go to
değişik
Greece,
tecrübelerle,
I will
döneceğime inanıyorum.
bring
Ve, bugün
different
burada
perspectives
gerçekleşen
to my
Antalya
country
Diplomasi
with me,
Forumu'nda
and I would like to
Cumhurbaşkanının, Türkiye
thank you
Cumhurbaşkanının ve
for
Dışişleri
giving me this
Bakanlığı'nın
opportunity. I mean
arasında
the
gerçekleşen
Ministry
Antalya
of Foreign
Diplomasi
Affairs
Forumu'nda
and the
bu
Presidency of
etkin
Turkey
konuda
for
konuştuğumuz
hosting
için
this event
kendimi
and
çok
for
mutlu
giving us
hissediyorum.
this opportunity to
Bildiğiniz
join
üzere
you.
her ülkenin
As you
kendine
know,
göre
each country
bakış açısı, kendine
has
göre
its
menfaatlerini
own
koruma
perspectives and interests,
hissiyatı vardır ve parlamentolarda
and
bu
their
değişiklikler söz konusudur.
parliaments
Her parlamento
make
üyesi
those
bir olacak
changes,
diye bir
and
konu yoktur.
there is
Bakış
no
açıları,
way
ülkelerin
to come to
menfaatleri,
an agreement
diplomasinin,
on every
yol
other
verişliliği
subject.
ve,
That is why we need
parlamenterlerin
diplomacy
ne kadar bazı
to
konularda
play
ileri
a
gitmek
role
istediği
in
ve aktif rol
promoting
almak
peace and
istediğini göz önünde
development, and
bulundurmamız gerekiyor.
the parliaments,
Bir
especially in
sürü kez
today's world, need
parlamentolarda
to
meclis
play
üyelerinin
a more active
sessiz
role.
kaldığını
But
yahut da bazı
unfortunately,
konulara
we see that some
verecek
parliamentarians or the
cevapların,
members of
yanıtlar
the
olmadığını
parliament
görmekteyiz.
stay silent
Fakat
about some major issues,
Biz
or they don't have any answer
bir
to
krizi
such
önleyebilmemiz için
challenges. But in order to
ülkelerin
prevent a
kendi menfaatlerini
crisis,
ve bölgesel
we need to
menfaatlerini
take into
koruyabilmeleri için
consideration of the national and the
hizmet
regional
ettikleri
interest of the
diplomasiye
countries.
yönelmemiz gerekiyor.
But we need to rely on
Kendi
diplomacy to
ülkemizde
do so.
demokrasiyi, kendi
In
ülkemizde
order to establish
diplomatik
democracy
yolları
in our own
savunduğumuz
country,
takdirde diğer
and in
ülkelere
order
de
to
öncü
seek democratic
olabilmemiz
ways
temeldir.
in
Bu
in
konularda
our
ben
own country,
Yunanistan parlamentosunda genç bir
we
milletvekili
need
olarak
to
ve
set an example. And as
azınlık
a young
milletvekili olarak
member
şunu
of
söyleyebilirim
in the
ki
Greek Parliament
Avrupa
and as a member of
Birliği
a minority, I
üyesi
can
ülkelerin
safely
rolü
say
büyüktür.
that
Diğer
European
ülkelere de
countries have a
Avrupa
huge
Birliği'nde
role to
olan
play,
konuları aktarma güçleri de
and other
yüksektir ve
countries
bölgesel
can
olarak
influence decisions
etki
in
edebilecekleri
this regard,
ortamlar da
and there are
bana keza,
platforms where
aynı
they
şekilde
can make
yüksek
their
etkilerdir.
influence felt.
Şunu hepimiz göz önünde
And we
bulundurmamız
need to
gerekiyor ki
consider
krizler
this.
hepimizin kapısını çalabilir.
Crisis can affect us
Savaşlar,
all,
Gıda ve
wars,
enerji yoksulluğu
food
ve bunun akabinde
insecurity,
gelen fiyatlardaki artışlar,
and the rising
yaşadığımız
prices,
pandemiler
and
ve
the
insani
pandemic,
krizler.
and the
Bunlara
humanitarian
hepimiz tanık oluyoruz
crisis, we
ve şu
have
an
been through
Filistin'de
it all
yaşadığımız görüntüleri
together, and we
hiçbirimiz
see what is
unutmuyoruz.
going on in
Fakat geçmiş
Palestine.
dönemlerde aynı
And in the
görüntüler Balkanlarda
past,
da
we
gözümüzün
saw the
önüne
same
geliyor ve
instances
her an
happen
parlamenterler
in
buna
other
göre,
countries.
inisiyatiflerini almaları gerekiyor ki
That is
bu
why
kriz ortamlarını
parliamentarians need
diplomatik
to
yollarla çözebilmeleri
step
gerekmektedir.
up
Sizin
and
sorunuza
play a
gelince,
role in
galiba,
diplomatic relations.
iyi
And
anladıysam
as for your
Yunanistan,
question,
parlamento üyelerinin bölgesel olarak yapacağı çalışmalarda ne gibi
when it
katkılar
comes to the
sağlayabileceğini
regional
soruyorsunuz.
efforts of the Greek
Bu konuda
parliamentarians,
benim
or the
söyleyebileceğim
potential
tek bir
role
şey var.
that they can
Burada
play,
iki
I
komşu
can say
ülkeyi göz
this.
önünde bulundurursak Türkiye ve Yunanistan.
When we consider
Ne zaman
Türkiye
parlamento
and
üyeleri
Greece,
ve diplomatlar büyük
whenever
rol üstlendiyse,
parliaments
iki
and
ülke ilişkileri
diplomats
her zaman iyi gitmiştir.
take a larger
Krizler
role,
çözülmüştür
the relations
ve en
between the
büyük,
two countries
e,
tend to
başarıda
improve, and we
diplomatik
eliminate
ve üst
crisis.
düzey Cumhurbaşkanlığı,
And at the
Başbakanlık
top
anlamında
level,
2015-2019
between the
döneminde
presidents
olmuştur.
and the prime ministers, we
Sayın
saw
Cumhurbaşkanı Recep Tayyip
great
Erdoğan
results
ve
between the
Yunanistan Başbakanı
for the
Alexis
dialogues
Tsipras
between
döneminde
Tsipras
üst
and
düzey
the
diplomatik
Recep Tayyip
yollarla
Erdoğan.
çözülen
They
ve hiçbir zaman
solved many
yüksek
problems at
krize
the top
yol
level
açmayan,
before
görüntüler
any of those
görmüşüzdür.
challenges
Bu
turn
tabii
into
ki
a
de
crisis.
ikinci etapta iki
And second of
ülke
all,
halklarının
we need
kalkınmasına,
to make
daha
sure that
hoşgörülü davranmasına, birbirlerine karşı olan
are
samimiyeti
in
arttırmasına
favor
yol
of
açacaktır.
development between
Biz
two
bu denenmiş
countries
tarih
and the
üzerinde
contact
diğer
between two
ülkelere de,
peoples.
diğer parlamento üyelerine de, diğer milletvekillerine de bu şekilde bunları
We
anlatabiliriz
need
ve bu
to
yolların
get
denenmiş
across
olduğunu
our
ve diplomatik
perspectives
açıdan
for each
güvenli
other.
olduğunu anlatabiliriz.
And we can
Son
tell,
olarak
we can set an
şunu
example and tell
söylemek
other
istiyorum.
parliamentarians
Dediğim gibi yani
that
birazcık
that is
şeyi
the way to
düzenledim.
go. Last but
Biz
not least,
parlamenterler olarak barışı nasıl
as
teşvik
the
ederiz
members
ve
of
insani
parliament, how
çabaları
can
nasıl
we promote
destekleyebiliriz?
peace and
Biz
humanitarian
halklarımızın sesini duyurmakla
development?
görevliyiz.
We have the
Halklarımızın
duty
sorunlarını
to make
empati kurabilmeli
the
ve bu
voices
sorunlara
of
çözüm
our
sunmaları
people heard.
gerekmekteyiz.
And we need to
Ülkeler
find
arası
solutions
barışlar
for their
sağlanmasında da
challenges,
aktif
and we
rol
have a role
alabiliriz.
to play
Çünkü
in terms of
parlamenterler,
contributing to the peace
milletvekilleri
between
sadece
the nations,
kendi
because
partilerinin
the
içinde
members
sınırlı
of the
roller almadan
parliament do not have a
bölgesel
role
olarak
to
geniş
play
bir düşünceye
only
sahip
within the
olmalıdırlar
boundaries
ki
of their
ve
political
onu
parties.
halklarına
They need to
aktarabilmelidirler.
make sure that
Yani
they
o hoşgörü
contribute to the
ve
global issues,
savaş karşıtı
especially the
düşünceyi
tolerance between
bölgemize
two
yansıtmamız gerekiyor.
peoples,
En büyük de
and we need to spread
rolümüz bu olacak ve
the
barış
tolerance
elçisi olmak
across the
istiyorsak
region in
bir
particular.
arada oturup
And if we
aynı
would
bugün
like to be
yaptığımız
the
gibi
envoys
bunları
of
konuşabilmemiz
peace,
gerekiyor.
we need to be able to sit down and talk about these
Daha fazla
issues.
söyleyecek bu konuda bir şeyim yok.
That is all
Tek
for what I
söyleyecek
would
bir
like
şeyim
to
var.
say, but
Artık
let me
savaşa hayır
remind
demeliyiz.
this, we need to
Çünkü
say no to war,
halklarımızın kalkınabilmesi
because
için
in order for our
siyasi
people to develop,
liderlerin, siyasi rol
political
alan insanların
leaders
bu konuda çok
and
aktif
the
ve çok duyarlı olması
politicians
gerekiyor.
need to
Kaybedecek
be
zamanımız yok.
aware
Artık
of
el
the
ele
fact that
verip
we
dünyayı
do not have
yaşanabilecek daha
time to
güzel bir yer
waste.
yapmamız
We need to
gerektiğine
build
inanmaktayım.
a
Çok
better
teşekkür
future
ederim.
for our world.
Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Mr. Ferrat. The strong words there. Now, let me move to Mr. Varel Ahmet. Now, Mr. Ahmet, considering Romania's strategic position and your parliamentary experience, what role do you see parliamentary diplomacy in promoting peace and stability? And I just want to relate it to what I discussed with Mr. Hajiev in the Black Sea region, an area which is certainly marked by historical tensions and contemporary challenges.
Merhabalar. Öncelikle
Hello,
çok teşekkür
thank you
söylemek
very
istiyorum.
much, first of all.
Türkiye Cumhuriyeti
I
Başkanı
mean, to the
Türkiye
presidency
İçişleri
of
Bakanı'yla
Turkey and the Ministry of
bizi-
Foreign Affairs in
bizlerin
Turkey
hepimizin bu araya getirdi. İkisini önce daha
for the invitation
çok memnunum.
and for gathering us
Arkadaşlarını zaten de tanıyorum.
here. And I have been, I'm
önemli
seeing familiar
konudur.
faces here. And
Katılıyorum.
this,
Teşekkür
the
ederim,
theme of
şu,
this
sorunuz
session
için.
is very important. Thank you very much, by the way, for your
Bu
question.
Karadeniz bölgesinden geliyorum.
I come from the Black Sea region,
Milletvekili olarak da
and as a member of the
Romanya
parliament,
Atatürklerin Demokrat
I
Birliği
represent
Genel
the
Başkanı oldum.
Romanian Tatar
Aramızda da
people. I am I serve as the
Kırım
chair
Tatarların
of the
lideri
group,
Rifat
and
Haganlı
we are joined
ve
by
Kırım
Rifat,
Tatarların başkanı Rifat
the
Çubarov
chairman of the Parliament of Crimean
arkadaşlarımızla
Tatar people.
bir araya gelmek ve de
And it is a great
görüşmemiz
honor
için
for me
çok
to join
memnunum.
them, and it
Çünkü
is
bizler
great to be
eskiden,
here.
eee,
Back in the day,
2014'e kadar
until
Romanya, Kırım Tatarlar her
2014,
senesi Matem günde 18 Mayıs'ta
on May 18,
400-500
Romanian
insanlar
Tatar
Kırım'a
people,
Matem günü
about
katılardınız. Bizler
4,500 of them
2014'ten beri kapımızlar kapaldı.
would
Kırım'a yetişemediniz. Onun için
have
zaman
contacts,
diyoruz ki,
constant contacts with one another. But
iki devlet,
after
bizim özel
2014,
iki millet, bir devlet, Türkiye bizlerini bugün de bugün
we
bir araya
lost
getiriyor.
that contact, and it is a great to be here again, thanks to the efforts of Turkey, where we have the opportunity to talk over these issues.
Dedeleri barış
Our
verdi, evladı barış verdi.
grandfathers
Şimdi
would always
bugünlerde
advocate
yetiştiğimiz
for peace. And now, in today's world,
candan bu işlerini yaşıyoruz. Tabii ki
we
bizler de
see why they advocated
çocuklarımıza
for that.
ve de
And we
tüm,
try to get
birliklerde çok
that
iyi konuştu
message
bizim,
across to
erken
our
konuşmacılarımız.
children.
Birlikte her zaman bu barış diyeceğimiz barış
And
önemlidir.
we need to stand by
Barış
peace
kültürünün
all the time.
desteklenmesi
And we need to
barış
promote the
eğitimle
culture of
saygılar.
peace, which starts with education.
Eğitim, diyalog ve işbirliği
And
yoluyla
education
yaşama,
will
saygı
lead to
duymak,
dialogue
şiddetle
and
son
respect
vermek
for
ve
each
şiddet
other
meselelerini
and
tespit
end
etmek
of
ve
violence.
uygulamak.
Birleşmiş Milletler Şartı uluslararası
UN Charter,
hukuka uygun olarak
in accordance with the
barış teşvik
international
etmek
law,
bir
stipulates
dizi değerdir.
that there are
Bizler
principles to be followed
aramızda
in order to
bugün de
establish peace.
çok önem vermek.
Today,
görüşmek,
we need
Ahmet
to
Hem de çok
attach
iyi
utmost
söyledi.
importance
Zaten
to
de
peacemaking
saygılar
efforts.
her zamanı bir şaka da olsa hanımlarımıza elimizi uzatıyoruz. Hanımlar
We extend
önemlidir. Onun için tebrik
Our
ediyorum
help
bu
to
konu
women
tartıştığı
in
için.
particular, and I would like to thank the two ladies joining us here
Mustafa
for raising these
ağamız da
issues.
söylesin burada
And Mustafa is here
kendisi de.
too.
Çok teşekkür ederim.
Thank you
Zaten de
very much.
bu çok benden erken konuştu arkadaşlarımız çok
took
güzel konuştu.
those who
Tanıdım,
took the
Yunan
floor
tebrikler.
before
Hepsine
me.
saygılıyorum,
They made
saygılıyorum
great
ve
remarks. I
ileride
have
de
great
yine
respect
de
for them, and
bir
I
araya
would like to say that
gelmekte
I am ready
saygılarımla
to
sunuyorum.
collaborate
Çünkü
with
çok
them
önemli.
in the future,
Teşekkür ederim.
which is important for
Mustafa ağamız
all the
da
parties
burada
involved, and
iki tane
especially
söz söylemek
to
istedim.
Mustafa. Would like to say a few words.
Kırım Tatar lideri arkanızda.
The chairperson of the Crimean Tatar people.
Please, yeah, go ahead.
Evet, I speak Turkish.
Okay.
You know, but I'm hearing here. Pardon. I'm sorry. Burada sık sık böyle kelime düşünüyorum. Kırım Tatarları. Ben tarihçi değilim ama tarihe nazar salsak aslında bunlar Kırım Türkleri. Ben de bizim bu Kırım kardeşlerimizden rica ederim. Buna bir doğruluk getirmek. Çünkü köken Türk. Tatarlar da Türktüler. Ama ben böyle düşünüyorum ki bu Kırım Tatarları söylenen bir millet böyle yok. Bunlar Türk olmuşlar. Kırım'da olmuşlar. Şimdi orada Kırımçaklar da var. Onlar Kırımçak değiller. Onlar sadece Musevi dini ama Türk Hazarlardan kalmış millet. Bana öyle geldi ki kardeşlerimiz bunu bir düşünseler ve tarihçilerden sorsalar. Çünkü tarih o sözünü söylemeliyiz. Siz gerçekten Türksünüz, biz Azeriler de Türk'üz. Buna bir açıklık gelmeli ki bilelim ki.
We are Turkish as well. I just wanted to shed light upon this fact.
Şimdi çok hürmetle bütün Türkiye'de de
With all due
gerçekten
respect,
de
I would
Kırım Tatar halkı ya da
Yes,
biz
the
kendimize
Crimean,
Kırımlı diyoruz.
Tatar-
Kırım
we
Türkleri
call
burada
us,
hiçbir
the
farkı yok.
Crimeans. There is no
342
difference
sene
between,
devamında
us
kocaman
and
bir
the
devletimiz
Turks.
vardı. Kırım
We
Hanlığı
had
Rusya sonunu zapt etmişti.
372
O sebepten
years
şimdi burada
of-
hiçbir soru yok.
we-
Kusura
as a
bakmamız.
sovereign state,
Kırım
and
Türkleri,
then we were
Kırımlı, Kırım
invaded
Tatarlar aynı.
by,
Thank
the
you very
Soviets.
much.
But the Crimeans, Crimean
Yes,
Tatars
yes. I was
and
going to come to
Turks,
you
we are
because you
all
were the
the
last
same,
speaker
basically.
of this roundtable. Now, Mr. Adem Chi goes in the context of the ongoing challenges that Ukraine is facing right now, especially given Russia's attacks on Ukraine that have been continuing since February of 2022, I believe. So we have entered the third year now of the war. What role do you think the Parliament can play here? Is there any possibility of peace dialogues, or perhaps an initiative that the Ukrainian Parliament can take, or something of that sort?
Çok sağ olun. Birinciden sorumum var. En başında söylediniz, bunda Rus tercüması olacak. Rus spikeri varmış. Herkes konuştu. Rus dilinde konuşan insan görmedim. Niçin ben bundan başladım? Eğer böyle TÖGEREK masada bu demokratik devlet ve millere, demek demokratik yolunla seçilgen insanlar, milletvekilleri oturgan son bu TÖGEREK masada bir sebeple mümkün bu terörist devletin Rusya'nın vekili oturması. Haçan herkesten geçirim soracak. Ve
state
dünyada
here.
sesim keskin.
I'm sorry, I am loud and I'm a bit.
Niçin ben böyle söyleyeyim?
I'm,
Her
Why-
yerde
why am
şunu
I
aytıp
speaking like
geçtik.
this?
Kavkaz olsun, Karadeniz olsun, Avrupa
everywhere, whether it
ülkelerinde,
might be
Moldova
Caucasia,
olsun,
whether Europe,
Ukrayna olsun,
whether
Suriye olsun,
Moldova,
diğer ülkeler
whether
olsun.
it is
Her yerde
Ukraine or
kalabalık
Syria,
çıkargan, cenk
everywhere,
açkan, cenk'e kol tutkan
those-
devlet bu Rusya devleti.
Russia
Ve
is
herkes
the
bunu
one that
bilir.
stirs up turmoil
bu,
and brings
çok
up war.
kritik var.
Everybody should know this.
Dünya
And
Birleşme
there are, of course,
Milletler'in
everybody is criticizing this.
ya
The
da
United
Avrupa
Nations
Birleşme
or the
Devletler'in
European Union,
strukturalarına. Ama
this is
bu
against all of these
toplumlar var,
structures, but
şartlar
all
çıkartar.
of these
Bu
actually
şartların
nations come up
biz
with
diskusiya
certain
yapabiliriz.
rules.
Ama
We can discuss
onların yerine
them,
getirmeye
but we need to
çalışmalarımızın
abide
devam
by
etmeye
these
borçluyuz.
rules.
Bir değil ama en hıyanet, en terörist devlet bu Rusya bu şartların kabul
Russia
etmiyor.
is
Bende yadır silahı var deyip
objecting to these
herkesin
rules. They are not
mecburi
respecting
yapması
these rules and
o
they are a
usulların
terrorist
çıkara
state
ve bu
and
usulların
they
kabul
are,
etmeseniz cenk herkesin, savaş
They say
herkesin
that
devletine
everybody
gelip
needs to
çıkacak
follow
söylüyor.
my rules,
Öyle
otherwise
söylüyor.
I will raise
Ve
a
bunun
war
için
with whomever doesn't
buna kol
oblige
tutma,
my rules.
yol vermemek için
in order
bu
not to
devlet
allow them
birleşmeleri
to do
sanksiyalar
the
teyit ediyor.
United Nations is
Niçin
shall
burada
impose
büyük
certain
çoğunluğu bu
sanctions.
demokratik devletleri bu sanksiyalara
But
eriştiler, koşullar. Ama misal Türk devletleri
every
bazıları
state respects
bu sanksiyalara
these
koşulmadılar.
sanctions. So, and
Ve
such
demek
sanctions,
teraziye
for example,
koydular.
was not imposed on some
Bu
Turkish states and
demokratik
Turkic states.
geleceği,
In order
insanların, milletlerin,
to
devletlerin
reach a
hak
democratic
hukukları
future,
ve barış.
the states should
Para.
should abide
İkinci
by
tarafında. Ne sebepten?
the rules,
Hayda var
regulations,
çıkacağımız biz böyle davranacak olsak.
peace actually
Ukrayna
will
devleti,
benefit
Ukrayna
everyone.
devletin
But the
diplomatları,
Ukrainian state, the parliamentarians and the
parlamentimiz
diplomats of Ukraine
çok hareket yapamız, görüşmeler geçiremiz
are
diğer devletlerin
very active.
parlamenterlerinden
We actively discussing and
ve bu
interviewing with
şartlarda
parliamentarians
kuru
of
bizim
other
tarafdaşlar
states.
olsun de değil.
This
Bu
is not
yaratılgan şartları
because
yerine
we
getirsin
wanted
bu
them
terörist
to,
devleti Rusya'da
side with us.
Rusya'nın
We just
tarafından
want them
birle,
to
bizden
this
beraberlikte
terrorist
olsunlar
state
diye biz
of
çok hareket
Russia
yaparız.
to
Sonrasında
abide
işte,
by the
herkesin
international
haberi
rules.
var,
So
Kırım
we
platforması
are
degen
doing
böyle bir
everything in our power
böyle
to
bir
ensure
platforma
this. You
kurduk.
might know that
İşte
we
o
have
platforma
established the
koşulganlar,
Crimean
koşulganlar
platform.
60'tan ziyade devletler
And
koşuldu.
there are over
Demek bu
60
çoğunluğu
states
koşuldu. Öyle kolay çalışmalar değil.
that we are
Çok uzun yol
in
geçti.
collaboration with.
İ-
This is not
Uç
easy.
sene, ek sene değil.
Have
Savaş Ukrayna'da
we
Rusya'nın
have
tarafından
been,
10 seneden beri alt var.
this is not a matter of only
14.
3 years.
senede
Thi-
Kırım'ın basıp
There has been Russian
böyle
war
milletimizin
or
başına
Russian
bela
conflict
getirgen,
in Ukraine for over
bizim
10
milletin
years, for
yok
almost
etmeye
14
tırışkan
years.
devlet
They
terörist değil.
have been trying to
14.
eliminate us. I'm
Ve bu
talking
cenk
about
10
14
sene
years.
devam etti.
And this war
Ve bizim
continued
hareketlerimiz bugün
for
böyle
a
yoldadır.
decade.
Kaçan
And for
elbette
10
biz
years.
yardım
And
bekliyoruz.
we are
Bu kuru bizim
expecting
cenkimiz değil.
support. We are
Ve onun
expecting
için
aid.
parlamentin
This
rolü
is
degende
not only our
biz
war.
Türkiye'nin
We-
parlamentine de
we in this
çok
respect,
müracaatla çıkamos.
we applied to
Ve
the
diğer
Turkish
Avrupa
parliament as well,
devletlerine
just like to
ve
the
bugün
other European
hepimiz
states.
birleşsek
And
bu
today,
savaşın
if we all
toxtatma
together,
imkanı var.
we can
Bu
stop
Rusya
this war.
devletin, terörist
We
devletin
can stop
bizim
this Russian
topraklardan,
terrorist
bizim
state.
topraklardan huvalamak değil
uh,
de bu
It's not a matter of
şartları
just,
yerine
kicking them
getirmek, dünya
out
kabul
of
ettiği
our
şartların
land,
yerine
but
getirmek
making them abide
biz
by the
beraberlikte
international
yapmalıyız.
rules, and we can only achieve this
Bugün de
if
bundaki
we
gelgen
act
sebebimiz
together.
yana fırsatla faydalanma ve diğer ülkelerin, diğer devletlerin
So,
vekillerinin konuşup
We should discuss
yana da
with
bu
the
şartların
parliamentarians
etrafında
of other
konuşma.
states, but we should
Bu
discuss
şartların
them around
herkes bilir.
these terms.
Sınırları bozmamak,
Everybody knows what
güçlü
these
devlet
terms
olsan
are
da
by
ya bir silahın
respecting,
olsa da
territorial
ozu yerin
integrity,
bileceksin.
whether
Ozu yerin
you
bilmesen,
are a
bütün
major
devletler
power in terms
beraberlikte
of
seni yerine
military
koyarlar
power
hep.
or not, you should
Böyle
know your
konuşsak,
place. Otherwise,
böyle
other
alırsak
states
o zaman
will teach you your place.
bu
If
şartlar
we
yerine
can
gelir.
talk
Ama
like
eğer
this,
de biz çağırsak,
to Russia or
insanın
other
kasını
major
elleri,
powers,
bizim
then they will know their
çocuklarımızın,
place.
bizim
If we want our kids,
annelerimizin,
if we
bizim
want our mothers,
babalarımızın
if we want our
kanının,
fathers,
bu kadar elleri battı. Lavrov gibi insanı çağırsak, bu demokratik ve parlament ve aslı da dünyanın geleceği çok muşkul olur. Sağ olun.
if we ask anybody, we
Thank you very much, and
remember we
certainly I
have-
understand the rhetoric is high. Your country is facing a war, so thank you very much for sharing your sentiments with us. It would have been great to take a response from a Russian member of parliament if he were present here, but we don't have that. So again, it's been a fascinating discussion, and one thing that you also highlighted is that the United Nations has been unsuccessful, ineffective in stopping wars across the world. And this reminds me of the words of the Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, who says that the world is bigger than five. And I believe with the help of such forums, we can promote a dialogue, a type of a dialogue, which can help us achieve the world is bigger than five. Once again, I thank all of my panelists for joining me today here in this discussion. It was a lively discussion, I believe, and I got to live a once-in-a-lifetime moment in my life. I got to be a speaker of an international assembly for 90 minutes, so thank you very much for giving me this honor. Sorry? No, I'm a journalist, so I would end it here. I'm not getting into politics. Thank you very much.
And no vetoes for us.
No vetoes here. Thank you.